Welcome to Conversations in American Democracy, everyone. It's good to see you. By the way, I have to make mention that somebody, not here today, but somebody who regularly is around this table, has suggested that our attention has been distracted elsewhere, and thus that we should end every sentence that we speak with the word Epstein. So with that, we'll turn
For the Epsteinth time.
I
didn't make it up.
Yes, very good. So Epstein, we'll turn to Kurt McCauley for his.
Can I second that
motion? You can. Don't have to second it. You can exemplify it, Epstein.
There was a sign at the rally that says "Grab them by the Epstein."
Yeah, right. Exactly. So Kurt is going to talk about the Constitution for a minute, Epstein.
Claiming his Fifth Amendment rights.
Yeah, go ahead.
We all know. So this is Amendment 5. We're working our way through it. And everybody knows about taking your Fifth Amendment. If you're in front of a panel like this or something, and somebody's asked you some very pointed questions and you just don't want to have to answer. So you plead the Fifth, right? Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Like Donald Trump does all the time?
Yeah.
Epstein?
Even though,
Epstein did too.
Epstein did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, and except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense, well, and this is what we all know as double jeopardy, okay? Nor should be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. So, all right, we all know that. You do not want to testify. Or be compelled to testify against yourself. Or property without, or deprived of life, liberty, or due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. And what is that?
Well,
That's basically
but
domain.
But once again, how does that amendment begin? Does it require that of all citizens or of all persons?
No, all persons.
All persons, whether or not they're citizenship status.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's important. Mike has a question, or maybe two, from the citizenship test. Let's see how we do.
Or maybe three.
Epstein. Okay, three. Epstein.
so this is the Epstein Constitution. What is the supreme law of the land?
We're not allowed to see the Epstein files.
We follow the rule of law.
Yeah.
The U.S. Constitution.
Yeah.
These, I'm going to read quickly. There's three questions that are missed the most. That was one of them. When was the Constitution written?
it
1881.
was ratified 1787. Was the ratification.
1787, I think, yeah.
Thank you.
1780s.
Do they want the exact year?
Yes.
No.
81.
And how many amendments to the Constitution?
29, I believe?
29.
Is it 29?
29? Yeah,
That looks something.
My answer says 27.
27.
27? Okay.
I knew it was in the high 20s somewhere.
So-
Yeah, oh yeah.
So we've kind of failed here.
Okay.
Epstein.
they want to make it harder.
Yes, Epstein.
And that's why it's up to us to be more engaged, and
May I ask
we
a
need to know the
question?
stuff. You don't have to ask permission to ask a question, Epstein.
About the amendments and everything. They're challenged, it seems, on a daily basis. Can somebody go so far as to like overturn an amendment or amend an amendment?
They would still they would have to go through the amendment process,
Yeah.
which is pretty difficult.
Which is why
completely true, because
what's the 19th
the
repealed the
amendments can
18th
be
Amendment, or was it the
declared-
20th that repealed the 19th Amendment?
For prohibition.
Yeah, prohibition was the, 18th Amendment or 19th
I think it was
Amendment?
the 18th.
And it was repealed, but you had to go again and get 2/3 of the states to ratify language to
Well,
repeal.
I think it's 3/4 of the Congress, isn't it, of the legislative?
By the way, before it's sent to the states.
Before
yes.
it's sent to the states, right.
And so that's
Very
why,
difficult.
Yes.
no kings, Donald Trump or anybody else cannot repeal an amendment, no matter what he says.
But they are clarified. For example, the Second Amendment and trying to define what is a weapon or a gun and who has rights to that.
That's the purpose of the
That's-
Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But my point
Right.
to her question is, yes, amendments, just like with the 14th Amendment going on right now, is the question of clarifying what the intent of the amendment was.
So the
And-
clarification can be done through the Supreme
Through
Court,
the
but in
Supreme
order to
Court.
completely
Right.
overturn it, it has to go through that very
Right,
extensive
amendment
Yeah,
process.
so let's note that Kurt is bringing us amendments. We dabbled a little bit in Article 1, which is regards the executive. Article 2, I believe, is the legislative, but Article 3 talks about the role of the judicial branch, and it's in the judicial branch that,
Right.
and that goes back to Marshall
That's a
v.
tad
Marbury.
frightening, though. That's a little
Very
bit
much so.
frightening, that they have that much power.
Well, and that's why the election process, particularly in the Senate and the president, has ramifications far beyond the term of the person you're electing. Because they appoint a young judge to the district court, the appellate court, or the Supreme Court, and that
For
person
lifetime.
remains on, how long has Clarence Thomas been on the court?
Too
For
long.
Too long.
Yeah, too long.
Yes, he is.
And it's a lifetime appointment, and you're stuck with it. And that's been one of the goals. Senator Mitchell of Kentucky was very proud of the fact that they appointed lots of young conservative judges, and the judiciary has been taken over and co-opted by conservatives in our
Well-
country, the Republican agenda.
I read, and it was probably a left-leaning place, but it was in Vanity Fair years ago, and they were talking about the 2016 election. And this journalist put forth that the reason why Donald Trump won in 2016 was because through Jerry Falwell and a promise to get conservatives on the Supreme Court, he promised him that evangelical right vote.
Right.
It's plausible,
Uh,
whether it's fact.
No, I think it's more than
I'm-
plausible.
It's
because
not fact.
it's merely an extension of the 2000 election.
Right.
Okay, and Bush v. Gore went before the Supreme Court. Overwhelmingly, the justices were appointed and bent towards republicanism, and therefore Gore simply had no choice but to withdraw from the election, and all the check recounts and so on here in Florida. And so we have to elect Democrats so that we get our kind of judges.
And that
in all
also
those courts.
speaks to, doesn't it, like how tenacious and long the one side has been going at this, and how they're not giving up. Yeah.
That movement probably began in the 50s.
Or the 60s with
That
the
was-
civil
well,
rights.
that-
They said
that
the
was
civil
part of the
rights.
whole anti-communist thing. We weren't just told how bad communism is, it's the godless communism.
Yeah.
They already started integrating religion into that movement, 1954.
Interesting. I
Famous
thought it
quote,
was civil
none dare
rights
call
with
it treason.
LBJ.
Anybody read it?
Which one?
No.
None dare call it treason.
Hmm.
And you can imagine who wrote that.
Yeah.
The bad boys, the
Yeah.
bad boys from California.
Yeah, and part of this is that Republicans were playing a long game.
Right,
And
exactly.
they're paying slow, and Democrats, not so much, but
We're so reactive.
Tom Townsend is here, has some ideas, a former superintendent of schools and former school board member in our neighboring Putnam County that's in part of our congressional district. His name has been mentioned, I don't know that he's happy about, but his name was mentioned around this table as a possible opponent of Randy Fine before Randy Fine was going to be primaried, and that's more complicated. But in my last conversation with him, he talked about revitalizing the party. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you mean by revitalizing.
Well, sure. I don't want to pretend I'm an expert because I'm not 50 miles from home, I'm only 25. But I am half an expert. I think a lot of that has to do with my experience in being in a place raised in a place, my family's many generations in Putnam County. So we've kind of stayed in the same place through all these changes that you talk about, through the 50s and whatever. And you know, the world, we've watched it, has changed. And you know, I want to commend you, but what you're doing with the Constitution and this civic thing is at the root, in my opinion, of all the issues that we're facing. Is that we, as a community, whether it be Putnam or the United States, at large, don't seem to understand how our process even works. And we've kind of given up on, I think this is the first time, certainly in my lifetime, that I felt like our country was going backwards instead of forwards.
You're right.
And certainly as someone that doesn't mind being identified as a liberal, it doesn't matter. They're going to put a label on you of some sort because that's the depth of how they want to talk to you is through labels. But being proud of that, it's because I know where I stand on those issues that affect my community. So however you choose to identify me, what I hope to do and hope to have our party do is engage people on the actual issues that are affecting us. And in Putnam County, as we end our sentences with Epstein, but it's very personal for me to come from such a rural place that is, if it doesn't lead the state, has always been one of the highest in domestic violence and sexual violence. That's where I grew up. Now I know it as a wonderful, lovely place, but that's a fact. Those issues exist, and so when we have a president, for whatever reason, has decided to lighten the conditions of such a vile offender as Ms. Maxwell, culturally, that certainly affects us where we are. And being in a community that's 70% voted for our current president, I know those individuals, and none of them are for that, okay? But we've created this culture that says it's all right to be quiet on those things. And I think that's how we're going to have to rebuild and rebrand ourselves, is that we're not going to be quiet on things that affect our neighbors, our friends. And it doesn't have to do with party or platform. It has to do with reality and the quality of life that we all say that we're pursuing. So in our efforts, and I want to really get this back to open discussion because I hope that's where I can add the most. I think the importance of building it is actually taking those things. And I know that Kathy has shared with you one of the issues that we just started with was being worried about the expiration of the tax credits, the Obamacare tax credits that come in December. Well, this was just a few months ago. I was unaware, and I'd called our local hospital and inquired about the impacts of Medicaid cuts that I perceived. Because like most people, my news didn't always come from just what's happening in my environment. There's a whole lot of attention on national news. Well, it applies differently to us in different places. So with that, I called him, and he simply just said it how it was, that the biggest impact for my community were the 8,000 residents that are taking advantage of that tax credit. And that average premium being $63 and going to go up to $750 if something isn't done. Well, that has a huge impact on Putnam County. For one, just the amount of money that comes to my county for services. Now, not all of this will go. Some of it will go to the insurance companies. But it pays for doctors and nurses and techs, all of that. It keeps my hospital, which already runs a deficit every year. I think it's close to $7 million. This is actually, if you total it all up, it's $65 million a year that leaves my community. And we haven't even got to the fact that it's improved health. So let's just jump ahead and let it expire and let it go away. Well, what happens? Well, the majority of those people probably won't keep that coverage.
Right.
So there goes the preventive care.
Epstein will let them.
In our community, 90% of the businesses are small businesses. And I'm talking small. You know, we're not talking hundreds. We're talking dozens of that. These people and their employees use this. It's an integral part of who we are and how we improve our health. But so when it goes away, what will happen? Well, they'll quit seeking care until they're so sick they show up in the ER. And then the ER will have to serve them. It will be more expensive. And now the hospital won't get reimbursed. Now, I don't know anybody that has any business background, but that's not a model for success.
Not at all.
Forget the moral argument. Let's just talk about the money. And in that case, it makes no sense. Of course, the moral argument is, I don't know why anybody doesn't want everyone to have health care. I can't imagine being in a position where a hospital bill dictates whether or not
Live or die.
live or die, or whether or not you're bankrupt or not.
Right, yes.
You know, or why would we have to make a decision of whether or not we can afford money or medicine? There's not a business out there that the economy of scale doesn't benefit. And yet, instead of talking about that or how to improve it or how to even get rid of what the perceived waste and fraud is, and I don't doubt there is waste and fraud. I don't doubt there's waste and fraud in everywhere. But why wouldn't you weigh the impact of completely wiping something out compared to what it is you're supposedly saving? And then before we just open it up, I was recently as of yesterday, a commissioner came by to see me because we have made this issue so, and it's always better, I guess, face to face than it is on camera. I don't quite agree with that, but that seems to be the way. Clearly doesn't see that difference. But when that's explained, they obviously understand that it's something they don't know enough about. And I think that's how we're going to rebuild ourselves, is to make sure that we no longer are just assuming things are going to be all right because we've always done better. We're going to have to outwork them. And it's not going to be, in my view, by being argumentative or insulting. There's a lot of that going on, and certainly I feel it, and it's my first nature. But we're in very serious business here with what's going on in this country. And we must talk about what is and is not effective. And what I have found as being effective is being specific, recognizing how little someone who has a voice may or may not know about these issues, and then positioning them at least to where they have to take a stand. And I want to be specific. I do not believe it is too much to ask of any elected official anywhere to take a stand on an issue.
And be truthful.
For, against, or indifferent.
Right.
But we have allowed silence, which I believe condones, to dictate most of what our elected officials do when it comes to these issues that so resoundingly affect our culture, our neighbors, us, ourselves. And I think it's a very low bar to start, but I think it's a lot of work to establish that that is the expectation. And I do think we should be wide open about it, not hide from it, and share it and see what they have to say.
May I
Yes.
ask a question? I know that a lot of times.
You have my vote. If I had two, you'd have them both.
Both of them.
Well, then maybe I could win if you had to.
I'm gonna give you both of mine.
Well,
The other side has some very effective strategies that they have employed with a lot of success. One of those, in my opinion, being taking these views to the pulpit. They're having a lot of preachers. I had a colleague, I worked in education, as did you. I had a colleague one time bring in something she got from her church against Obama with all those Obama conspiracy theories. Keep in mind that my volunteer for 27 years is a retired Port Authority black police officer. And she comes in with this stuff into the workplace to show it to us or share it with us. Are the pulpits that lean in a different direction, are they starting to talk about some of this? Because I go to Catholic church and I don't hear them talking about this a lot. Like, we pray for the military and the first responders, but they don't really drive the message the way that it's driven in this other place. Any comments on that, or is
Sure,
there any
So
effectiveness
how
to
do
that?
we reach how do we
'Cause
reach
it's
people
every
with
Sunday.
the truth? I mean,
Or Saturday.
So if they're reaching people in churches, you know, how and where and when do we reach the masses with truth and facts? And,
I have an idea on it.
okay,
I think that and maybe I'm talking about me and my past habits of how I would approach things and what I think is needed now. But everybody in today's world is in their own circle, their own bubble. And you reference the pulpit, but what you're really referencing is a pastor of a specific church. And just like with our government, there's a lot of power that comes with that. And in my view, these churches and that power are doing absolutely talking about things that they believe in. But there's a lot of things that they're not talking about. And it's hard to demand that another church talk about something that matters to you when we're not even part of that church. I wouldn't want that, nor do I want to bring that. But someone who's not a big fan of religion, but absolutely considers him someone that is, I've raised Catholic, and I certainly believe in the teachings of Christ as I understand them. I use the church and the pastors and those people that it means so much to in my conversation to ask them to explain to me how I understand the teachings of Christ and how that fits with what you're saying.
Yes, exactly.
And I have to tell you, it's been quite powerful because no one has. and I, because regardless of what you're feeling on immigration, I've yet to find anybody that believes somewhere in the teachings of Christ that he thinks it's all right to separate a family and not tell them where they're going or why they've been gone. I don't think for those of us that have been maybe labeled as not being godly or don't share their faith as openly, I think one of the best things we can do is be humble and ask pastor as we're being recorded. I look forward to the pastor that could explain to me how this is something that we should not be talking about in our churches. You know, how does someone like me who believes that homosexuality is not a choice, but God's will for whatever reason, not getting into whether or not you think it is right or wrong or sinful or not, but I believe my teachings of Christ say that regardless of what your choice is in sexual preference, I'm to treat you as my brother.
Healthy people don't go to the doctor.
Huh?
Healthy people don't need the doctor. He came for symptoms.
Right. But I have to tell you, I'm open to that. But I want that explanation because what I'm witnessing is too often it just seems to be an attack on those that are most vulnerable. And for someone that, for me, faith is, I practice in my own way, is very important to me. I'm open to that because I know the comfort that has brought to me, the courage that has allowed me to say this to a group of strangers that I have not met. Because I don't doubt that being kind and decent and respectful is not the way to go towards people. And as upset as I am about the things that have been said about me personally and certainly Democrats as a whole, I guess it does go back a little bit to me and who I am faith-wise and how I must conduct myself and how I hope to be heard. So I've made a very conscious effort to try and engage my elected officials, and I am focused on elected officials and people of influence in the community. And not trying to get them in a gotcha, but absolutely not letting go. I deserve an answer.
I
where we
heard
stand
there's
on
an
these
extreme
issues.
teaching shortage in the state of Oklahoma, and they have just instituted in their teacher exam that the teachers have to align with the beliefs of, they have to demonstrate their loyalty to Trump specifically. In the midst of a huge teaching shortage.
I don't.
They're gonna pick and
Right.
choose.
There's no doubt that that's going on, but I also see it getting us distracted. You know, that we run and look at what that is, and that's happening in Oklahoma, Well, Oklahoma's very different than where we are. Okay? I do believe, I mean, Republicans forever have talked about local control. Yet you won't find any group that's taking more local control away than Republicans. But we're not talking about what those actual things are. We get wrapped up in this back and forth because we are so convinced that that is wrong. Well, those leaders that are presenting it, and keep in mind, this is because of a superintendent out there that has an enormous amount of power. It's not all of Oklahoma,
Right.
you know, but those elected officials often don't get the pushback they need, or they get pushback from places. I assure you the Oklahoma superintendent doesn't care what we think around this table about what they're doing out there.
Right.
All
What
right?
you are speaking about is only from people from New York and California. Not everyone has to take a patriotic test in Oklahoma, as you were talking about.
That's
Only
right, that's
those
right.
that
that's right.
originally came
Coming in
from
from liberal places.
California.
That's right. New York,
And New York,
that's right.
which brings me something.
Who would
is
never
that
move to Oklahoma anyway.
The Republican Party, the Republican Party has found a word that they demonize, and the word is Democrat. So anything that is going wrong, any place with any issue, whether the crime issue or whether economic, anything, those Democrats.
That's been the Republican playbook for
And
70 years.
we allow
They
it to
demonize
happen.
communism, socialism, liberalism.
Yeah.
They demonize whatever will be their enemy.
Right.
The brown
Gets in
people
their
across
way.
the border. the-
Right.
Tom,
And
if I
we
could,
allow it as a party to happen, and that's one of, you talked about repackaging
Nah,
our party or doing something like that. That's what we have to do. We have to show the masses, show the people that we are not demons and that we have a platform for the betterment of the people.
The
Right.
showing.
Well, and that comes to what we're actually doing in Putnam County. We're engaging our local officials at that level. And there are things that we agree on, and we should support them. We're not enemies, okay? But we are perceived that way, and we perceive them, many of us do it that way. But the truth is they have the power. And certainly in my mind, it's being abused left and right, and we can point that out. But I believe it's going to be more effective, just the things you were talking about in the city council meeting, coming up and showing and having those people, this is how it's impacting us. And you do that by putting, in our case, we put our name as, I'm here as the vice chair of the Democratic Party, and I'm pointing this out to you. And it is having the courage of your convictions. I'm glad I'm a Democrat. And the main reason I'm a Democrat is I live in Putnam County, the poorest, one of the poorest counties in the state, if not the poorest. One of the most uneducated, if not. We get way more in federal dollars than we will ever send. Yet we are run as a county by people who have bought into this, telling us that they want to do what's in the best interest of our county, yet they refuse to answer when given the most polite request, an opportune time, and support offered. Well, that's not going to change if we do that once and walk away. That is the standard operating procedure for any engaged citizen that wants our country to thrive. And we damn sure need a hard enough coat that we can take the demonization or the whatever that is and just say, great, but excuse me, can we get back to the issue of taking $65 million out of my county? Because that actually matters.
Right.
And I think most people are ready for here. I think there is such a void at this point that if we could come up with a discipline that was focused on issues that were relevant locally, that we amplified the voices of those that disagreed with us and give them full credit. If you think you're a Christian that's doing everything wonderful in our community, which some of ours like to tout, I want to give you credit for separating the families and doing it without conscience. I mean, this is a serious issue. Can you imagine that? We've all seen the videos. We know the people that are going and trying to comply and being arrested. You can be proud of that if you want. I will hold that up. I want to make sure the people I care about know that's the character that you openly and honestly display. I'm not judging you on it, but I think it's very, very dangerous, and I'm not afraid to say so.
Tom, if I could, I'm a Flagler resident now, was a Putnam
Yeah.
resident for 2 years, recently moved back over here. If I could direct you back to when you spoke to the hospital administrator,
Yes,
he shared some information with you that you were unaware of previously,
yes.
which is the letter here.
He shared a letter from the Chamber of Commerce that the Chamber had written. Obviously, they were concerned, and this was 2 months before I started inquiring. Chambers subsidized by our county. Okay? Well, no one knew. Now, it's great that they did that, and I applaud them for it. Called them for it, and applauded them for it. But it wasn't until I brought that very letter to the county that anybody even knew. And after 3 times with our county government, only speaking in public comment, I'm sure y'all have the same thing. Well, they don't engage you, they just dismiss you. Well, at the same time, they, I guess, didn't know I was working with the city government as well. Well, they embraced it, and they actually passed a resolution stating the importance of it. I do know following that, Congressman Fine's been to the county, commissioner, people are talking about it. Now, whether it's going to do any good or not, I don't know. But at the end of the day, if I were an elected official in a county that could stand to lose tens of millions of dollars and the quality of health care go down, I think I'd want to have a position on it.
Not to mention the
Right.
economic trickle.
But we also address this in a timely manner. And I think we forget that because so much is coming down the pipe and so many decisions are made. We have to get ahead of it. We don't need to be on the defense. Okay? I can't speak to y'all's situation, but we are absolutely predominantly Republican as far as elected officials in Putnam County.
Yes, we are too.
Okay?
Flagler is an old
Well,
Republican.
well, then by all means, you guys say it's good. And that's the question I asked. Tell me how this is good for Putnam County, and I will join you.
Well, and another thing you.
I haven't had to
by
join
getting-
anybody yet, by
By
the way.
getting the city resolution, that hit the newspaper.
It did.
Palaca still has a daily newspaper, they call it daily, it prints 3 times a week, but hey. So it hit the newspaper, which then opened so many in the public who had no idea this change was even coming. So, you know, it's groundwork. And does this resolution by the city of Palaca make any difference to Congress? No, but it began to engage the public. And Tom talks a lot, he came to our Democratic Women's Club and did a whole thing on community engagement and how it's going to take all of us. And we have to start showing up for the meetings like Mark does. And we need to have a voice and we need to, you know.
I haven't been to a meeting yet, and I've only been to 3 city and 3 counties. So don't take the, you know, like this is what I do with my life. Well, I haven't been to a meeting yet that there haven't been 4 issues that are very easily to take the federal issue and tie it to it. So they're making decisions that I would agree with, yet they're supporting something contradictory that the federal government's pushing down on us. And just being able to know what those are and talk in those terms makes a difference to the relevance of the people in your community. And it's easier for them to understand, I believe, to understand that. And so that's where our focus are. We're focusing on 2 things, economics and health. And there's probably not an issue that we can't tie to that. And if you can't say it's better for economics and health, I don't know, how much effort do you want to put into it? And there seems to be an enormous effort going into policies that will have a negative effect on my community. And my leaders, to this point, have chosen to be silent.
Let's go to Kurt and then Vicki.
Well, I've been involved with politics all my life, and so I've just been following all these kinds of issues. But because of 250 years, celebration is coming up. Just going over the Constitution is just great. It's just really great. I read it every day now. I don't read the Bible, I read the Constitution. But everything that we have accomplished is it right now. We are at a point.
Right.
And Trump wants to throw it all away. He wants.
It's not just Trump.
No, I know.
It may be a majority of our country.
Right.
And so that really is the question. And I think we're way too much focused on the president.
Right.
Where it's actually his followers they're allowing this to happen.
Right.
And I'm not picking up arms and going after my neighbors. I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. I don't want to fight with them. I want to understand why it's better for me and our neighbor.
Well, that's
And-
biblical. That's biblical. That's really, other the Constitution goes all around this,
Right.
but it's still that's biblical.
Well,
You treat your neighbor
absolutely.
as yourself.
But at the same time, you discuss those issues, and what I'm finding is when they don't want to discuss an issue with you, it's because they don't have an answer. And I've held office. You couldn't find enough microphones for me to talk to. But I knew what I wanted to accomplish. I knew what I believed. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of these people, whether they know what they believe or not, they really don't have the courage of their convictions. That doesn't make them bad people. It makes them in a spot that they don't know what to do. And I think that we have an opportunity that if we look at that from those perspectives, we can help show them what to do.
All of us though.
Mickey.
It can't just be Tom
Absolutely.
or Kathy. And I heard you say about a minute ago that it takes all of us to
Absolutely.
do that. And if we all choose something that we see or that we're passionate about and make that happen and even report back to each other on that. And I'd like to give 3 examples of what you're talking about on my level. Like you talked with the hospital and whatnot. On Flagler 5051, we do this on a daily basis. So it might not be the hospital or it might not be what, but there's different things. So this morning, before I came here, I feel passionate about vote by mail. And our president has been saying, by midterms, he wants to do away with vote by mail.
At Putin's guidance.
And it might be another distraction or whatever, but I'm passionate about that. I vote by mail. I called our local supervisor of elections, Katie Lenhart. I talked with her and I said what my concerns are. I called the governor's office and I left a message with the governor's office about my concerns. But with Katie, she was very receptive, and she said that she believes in that too, and that here in our community, Republicans and Democrats both want vote by mail. And so she said that if there's a lot that would happen before that would change, and she talked to me about all the things that would need to happen, and if it got to a point where she saw that that could change here in Florida, that she would speak up for our community. But I had the conversation with her. And then another thing that happened was last week, I organized a Randy Fine rally here in town. There was probably 100 people that came from all over, Volusia, other communities came, several of you were there. And after that happened, our group was made aware of a flyer that Randy Fine had put out with people that were supporting him or giving money to him for him to be there. Well, our group went and started giving 1-star reviews to all these businesses that gave him money. Well, one of the businesses, Palm Coast Ford, called one of our leaders in our group back and said, "Oh, you gave us a 1-star review. Why?" And she said, "Well, you gave money to this person who A, B, C, D, E, F, and G does to people." And they said, "We did not give him money. And we're going to look into this. And thank you for making us aware of it. And we will be calling the Chamber of Commerce today because the Chamber of Commerce put our name on that flyer and we did not give money. So thank you for making us aware." So that was an effort that someone else in our group made. And we had that on our page for all of you to join in and do. So we gave that idea. So that was a great connection. Another group that I'm in for environmental causes. We have meetings, we make efforts to make people aware in the community of heavy industrial that could go into our community. Well, when we have these meetings, and I am surmising that a large majority in those meetings are probably constant Republican voters. Well, they were scrambling to find Adam Morley, who was on our ballot last fall, because he stands for the environment. And they were all saying, "Who's this Adam Morley? Who is he?" And I said, "Well, he ran for office last fall. I voted for him, and I said to them in the group, it's going to be very important moving forward because they're realizing." that when they bring their concerns to the board, they're not being listened to by all of the Republicans that are in office, and they're scrambling to look for this mysterious figure, Adam Morley, who's a Democrat. And I said it's very important moving forward that we all look at who we're voting for and what they stand for. And so those people were reached out to about that. So those are all ways that we can make those connections, have those conversations, and it might not be the hospital, but it's other leaders and
Right.
voters. So anyone's welcome to come on 5051 and see what we do on a daily and
Oh, we,
reaching out to
Underscore,
leaders.
underscore all of us and
Yeah.
abstain.
yeah.
And you and your groups.
Well, at Flagler 5051, we had a bridge brigade about 2 weeks ago, release the files. We made a big banner, we put it over the highway for anybody, you know, coming down the highway to see release the files. And we stood there and we sign waved, and then afterwards we follow it up with making phone calls or sending emails, not just screaming into the wind. We
Right.
are actually taking action about the things that we care about, and it's going to take all of us to say something.
And what I would add to that is, it doesn't take all of us doing things we're uncomfortable with.
Right.
It takes all of us doing where we are, or what our issue is. And to give you an example, we're putting together canvassing teams. Well, a lot of people don't want to do that, and I get it. It's not, it's not that fun. But one of the things is we have some people that want to do it with pencil and paper. Well, we have people that will actually input that data for us. That's an engagement, something they can do that they're comfortable that we need to think about, because this really is about building infrastructure. It's about building a way to communicate. Even here, I hope we come up with a way that I'm into your communications, because it is going to be that. It's the dissemination of a message. Why we're so frustrated, I think, with our president is his success at totally controlling the airways. And so we go out and scream louder trying to get heard. Well, that's not how we're going to get heard. We're going to get heard by those things that are relevant to people that we point out in timely manners. And that's a different mindset than what we have. I think it's going to take, I think it's a never-ending project. But I think we did rest on our laurels too much. I think the Obama victory was something that said, to a lot of people, we really have made a milestone that we're not going back over. The health care was like, this is only going to go forward from here. All of that. And then a whole series of things have happened. But all of them certainly caught me off guard. Someone who had been in office and had made a conscious decision, I'm moving on and doing other things. Well, there were many places I could have raised my voice, should have raised my voice, wish I had raised my voice. That maybe would make a difference. But I think that's where it's find people where they are. We want people, I know in our case, we always say, we need you to come to the meeting. Well, people are having meetings. You're having a meeting. Those that really want to make this change or lead this change, we're going to have to go where people are. That's where they're comfortable working, and give them the tools that they need in their area. Listen to what they're most specific. Because just because I care deeply about the family separation, there's some communities that have very few immigrants and it's not an issue for them. Regardless, it's not what's on their mind. And we need to recognize that, I think. But we also don't even talk to the very people it's affecting. I haven't talked to a single farmer yet. I do know some employers that have immigrant labor. And they don't know what they're going to do. But how do we get them engaged in a way that doesn't put a target on them? Right. Or how do we get that message? And it really is hard work building relationships.
Mark, Brian McMillan wouldn't come here?
To this meeting?
Yeah.
If he was invited, he would. Sure.
Want to invite him? We'll invite him.
No, I can invite him. But Tom, I applaud you for doing.
I'm not sure what I'm doing yet.
But the point is, you're thinking about it. And what Vicki points out and what I've said about how just a small group of people getting together and being visible and taking an effort to take that 3 minutes, just go up and say what you want, does move it at a local level. But I'm a little, you're taking an attack which needs to be done. The attack on Medicare and the attack on healthcare is something that's going to aggressively touch Putnam County here in Flagler, and they don't even have an understanding or a clue of how it's going to be. But here at a local level in Putnam and in Flagler, we only have one opportunity to change one voice for one person, and that's the 6th District House of Representatives and your senator to change at a national level what is happening with whether our efforts at a national level. And it sounds like you've chosen to fight, voice, battle something that is at a national level, which would make many feel maybe that's what you're thinking about in any future efforts, if possible. I'm a big believer, and I'm copying what the Republican Party did in Florida and many places for the last 25 years. Start local, work local, grow local from the churches, from the high schools, and get those people, and then take no ownership for disasters. And I'm surprised, and I was hoping to hear more about, I know you were a superintendent of schools.
Sure.
And we know that locally, the schools are being attacked, local controls being moved away. I was speaking with, we had a sitting school board member, and in talking with her off the record, she says, I can see a day where there won't be the need for a school board at the county level because the state will set the curriculum, the guidelines, the pay, all of these things that are going on. Right now in Flagler County, the second largest expenditure that we are all paying in our millage rate is to pay for the voucher program. And in Flagler County, it's $17 million right off the top that is going to offset and pay somewhere between $7,000 and $9,000 per student to take them out of public school, which hurts all of us, and into a non-accredited, non-observed, non-inspected, no certification required for any of its students. I have a bigger concern in that aspect of what's happening to affect the education in Putnam, the education here, because you've got Imagine School, you've got other schools that are
Probably
popping
religious.
up that are heavily religious.
Absolutely.
And so I applaud you in the direction you're going, and it sounds like it's more of a national, maybe a 6th district, which I would applaud you for that, and it's great. But at the local level, Putnam, Flagler County, with our, even at the county level or at the city level, we have no voice other than the 2 elected officials to change or to protect Obamacare and the funding for that. Important, clearly important. And I'm a big believer, and what my goal is to help educate people when they're gonna get touched. And that's what you've been talking about when you talk to your neighbor and say, you know, the only hospital we have for 10 years, 10 miles around is gonna close. And you're not gonna be able to get there. Forget whether you can pay for it or not, it's not gonna be there. So those are touches, and people, due to, and you pointed out, within the airwaves, we have an already, unfortunately, both our hands are tied behind our back when you talk to conservative Republicans that don't even hear the same message that we hear. They don't hear the same conversation. They don't understand when I have conversations with an individual just the other day, and he's going, we need to get those illegals out of here because they broke the law. They came here illegally. And I smiled at him and I said, when was the last time you sped on a county road? Oh, every day. Take a breath. You just broke the law. You are as guilty as that individual. They haven't been caught, and you haven't been caught. they don't even have that mindset to appreciate how they're throwing a brick at someone while the brick they have in their hand, they stole off a guy's lawn and not realize they're as guilty as the next guy. So I applaud you and your efforts. We all need to find a place where we can be the loudest and be the most impactful, and talking with the hospitals and educating those people is a huge bite, because locally, none of those people are going to be able to save Obamacare.
Yeah, let's go to Kathy.
I was hoping you could speak to, roll it back for a little bit, to speak to these cuts that are, you mentioned cuts that are expiring in December.
Yes.
Credits.
What are they? I mean, I'm
This is the-
completely unaware of the situation, so could you just explain what's expiring?
It's ACA. It's the Obamacare.
It's the-
And what happens, it has a sliding fee on that depending where you are.
Okay.
And look, like I told one of the commissioners, I'm open to discussing the sliding fee being changed if you think people too much on the high end or what. Nobody's against that. It's just, why are we taking people that have no care and making sure they have none and losing money at the same time? I mean, there's not a win anywhere in my county of this. So that's what it is. Now, they have the ability to do it. The big beautiful bill is all borrowed money. It's $3.7 trillion. I mean, if you're, this really comes down to priorities. And I want to go back to what you were saying, though, about the national level. I think the way to do that is to bring it locally. I would be willing to bet, not knowing who any of your elected officials are, that some of them are absolutely MAGA. Then let's give them credit for that. Okay? That's the thing.
Yes.
So you're MAGA. You think this is good. This has this negative impact, but you clearly have stated this is who you are. I'm not arguing with you about it. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just absolutely convinced that removing $65 million out of my community and reducing health care is a bad idea when it didn't cost us anything.
Own it.
Own it.
Own it.
Put your name on it. I am glad, you MAGA people, I am glad that he is separating families and not telling them where they're going. Raise your hand and say it. Or damn it, say at least I don't agree with that with him. You can agree with 100 things of our president, but these things that are so outside the moral boundary of anybody I have ever dealt with, and for us to give them an absolute free ride while they're using the brand to promote how great they are, I think is shame on us.
Right.
Yeah.
Poison the water.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not even saying poison the water.
I
You're an
do all the
elected
time.
official. I want you to use your platform to tell me how you stand so I can decide what my next actions are. I think that's as low a bar as you can get. And if you're not up to that, why are you running for an elected office?
Because they cherry picked a few successes that are being promoted on some of the conservative radio and go, well, the border's closed, it's healthy.
Well,
That's great, but that's not the whole story. In our local area, we just had a presentation with Fine. We're about to put out a $500 million bond to fix our water system. We are under penalty of state because we are violating the agreement we have to run our own water system. And our elected official, Randy Fine, told publicly, well, I don't think the federal or state's going to come to your rescue. This is just something you need to do on your own.
Yeah.
So we got 130,000 people. They're going to have to come up with $500 million to fix our water system. And I pointed out to the the House of Representatives through my phone call him every day. I said, so you're telling me the state's not going to do anything, but didn't our governor just return $800 million from the infrastructure bill that was given to this state for this very project? Now, of course, I don't hear anything back from him, but that's the message that we need to inform and have our elected officials who are so quickly throwing themselves under the bus and not even being aware that they are
Anybody's paying
blaming
attention.
If I hear one more time at our city meeting that they can't do anything because of local control loss, which is their own party that's doing the local control loss of things they can't, and that's what you're talking about. I
Absolute
stand
credit.
right in front of every one of them and go, you're complaining about what your own party's doing to your city, which you were elected to help with. And so I totally agree with you, is hold that mirror up.
I told someone, I feel like we're living in the land of Oz.
Upside down world.
We got a lion out there looking for courage and a scarecrow looking for brains and a tin man with no heart, you know. And I think it's our job to be the wizard. We've got to give them
I agree.
that courage, and sometimes the only way I know to do that is to have a better understanding of the content, knowledge of what you're speaking with, be absolutely relevant to the decision makers, do it in a way that can easily be amplified, which we have a lot of work on doing that we can amplify each other's voices and theirs, and move forward. And I think you will find, you speak to the national level, but in Putnam County, certainly, if you're not that, the belief is you can't get elected. I don't.
Here too.
I don't.
Here too.
Well, I think it's a belief we've given. I don't think that's the case. And the reason the brand is strong is we don't challenge it in the ways where it's so vulnerable, and it's vulnerable in the way it actually has impacts on our friends, families, and neighbors. And it's just simply articulating that. And we don't need to be afraid to go to a public comment, read a constitution. 3 of you in a row, you got 3 minutes, right? Finish it, and then a fourth person can get up and tie the local issue to it.
Right.
You know, we have all these venues that are not what we want, but they are what we have.
Right.
So instead of actually using those to their max capacity, and you have to give them credit, they push the boundaries on everything. We get kind of stuck in this is the way it's been for 30 years and we're going to do that. Well, that day's over. It really is. Until we embrace that and find it. And what I'm saying may not be the right way, but people, we're going to have to be a little bolder and get out there with things that can be replicated and articulated to others that work. I believe we are on to something in Putnam. But we have just started, and it is going to be tough. It is exhausting. But when you look at the alternative, I don't see that. I have any other choice.
Can you possibly, and I know we have to finish up soon, but
Yeah, we're
you
No,
use that
you're
word
fine.
infrastructure,
Yeah,
which I think is a perfect word to describe where we're at and what we're doing.
right.
Wouldn't then the infrastructure plan be something to actually materialize that so that other counties can replicate said infrastructure and we can all be kind of...
Yeah, I actually think some other counties do it much better than we. I mean, we're looking and seeing from having a dynamic website to using maybe something as simple as MailChimp, to where you can actually survey people, finding ways to engage them on their level, communicating with the churches. We're trying to build liaisons between us and every organized group in Putnam County. Not that you have to agree with us, but we want to exchange our ideas on these issues with you, so you can share that with your group however you feel appropriate. And vice versa. If you know that we're about economic and health, and you have one that we're not aware of, we need to know that. So we're putting a lot of effort into communication, but not communication as a blanket, everybody reads this email, or everybody this TikTok.
Right.
No, everybody in their own little place. So instead of asking people to step out of their comfort zones, we're asking to get invited into your comfort zone. So we can talk about how you want to address this and take the resources that we have, the connections we have at the state level, and how we can help craft that message that you can send to your circle of influence. And I don't care if it's 3 people or 300. They're all important, and they all, once they start engaging, that's what becomes water cooler talk.
And
And
the sharing of the
that's
information
absolutely. And now it came from
gathering.
here, and it came from here.
Okay.
Well, I hope to be part of an organization that helps articulate messages on very specific things that impact our community and have it disseminated throughout those different places.
There is a hub
Okay.
here. Flagler has a
Good.
hub, which is
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay, we're gonna finish up.
Along with that, we were talking before the camera came on about what was happening locally, and I was challenged in my brain about what's happening on the 25th. And in hearing Tom speak, it dawned on me, and this is very important, on
25th
August
or 24th?
the 25th, August 25th, what is happening is on a Flagler 5051 page, we're calling on everyone to show up to oppose the reserve at Haw Creek. This massive proposed development spanning thousands of new homes and infrastructure threatens valuable wildlife corridors, wetlands, and critical local ecosystems. Your presence matters. They would like to fill the room. August 25th at 7 p.m. at the Government Services Building. Wear green. We're fighting against all of this overdevelopment in our county. So if you're able to show up for that meeting, make your voice heard to our local leaders in regards to what's happening locally. We were talking about it before the camera came on too, that business owners out on Route 1 were fighting against a concrete business being put out there. Those business owners raised their voices. The local leaders heard them and they voted it down. So when people rise up and talk about their concerns, sometimes we will be heard. So this coming Monday, the 25th, at the Government Services Building, 7 p.m., if you care about this overdevelopment and our system here and overdevelopment in Flagler County, show up. Say something. You'll have a chance. Your 3 minutes, like you were saying. Stand up and speak your mind and your heart and facts.
Right.
Yep.
And don't underestimate the value of preparing somebody who's nervous about that.
Yep.
Help them.
Last comment, Kathy, and then we'll
How
wind
can we
up.
follow, because I love what I heard today, and your opinions are so straight on to what I feel in my heart we really need to do. So I'd like to know, how do we follow you? You have a Facebook or Instagram or something where we can be further enlightened?
It's funny you say.
Great enlightener.
I'm one of the few people that doesn't even have a Facebook page. When superintendent that came on, and I saw so many things that were like, what are people doing to themselves? I said, but truthfully, that's a place I need help, and I'm willing to do that. It's just not something what I have done. Certainly, we're being filmed here. I've heard of a podcast. Anything that we can do. But that's what we have to do.
Then I will make this commitment that if you write something and email it to where you've got this notice of the meeting, Conversations in American Democracy, I'll post it on our congregation, Conversations in American Democracy Facebook page that we can all read. But let me also invite you to come back and join us every week if you'd like. At 12 o'clock, we're here for Conversations in American Democracy. We thank you. We hope you'll come back. We want to talk some more, and you make a lot of sense. And thank everybody who's here as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you all next week.
Epstein.
Thank you. Remember,
Release the files.
No, we're being,
He's coming as a guest next week.
we're being distracted in every which direction.